Hello, family members. First of all, thank you very much for those who have been subscribing and those who are giving us such interesting and good feedback. And so, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And for those of you who are here, please like, share, and subscribe. And so, today's conversation is a really interesting one. So, we have with us Miss Paridhi. She has been working with the social impact sector and she has worked on ground on the sites where she could make an actual impact. Not only that, she has worked with this amazing Environmental Defense Fund funded Fellowship, which she's going to explain more about. So, this was her journey, and it's such an inspiring journey. We also have Prerna with us, who is also one of the Climate Corps Fellow. And so interestingly, they both knew each other beforehand. And Paridhi is such a great personality. It was a real pleasure meeting her. Please watch it till the end and enjoy this conversation. Hello and welcome to yet another podcast of Sustainability Sisters. And today we have a very special guest, Paridhi Mishra. And luckily, she is already worked with one of our sisters, Prerna. So, Prerna, do you want to give us a quick introduction of Paridhi and how you know her?
So there's a fellowship that is being there by EDF, Environmental Defense Fund, and it's a Climate Corps Fellowship. So I applied for this fellowship and I got to know Paridhi. So she took my interview and I was like, when she took my interview, I answered some question. Luckily I got selected, and then that's how she was there for us to whoever was selected in the climate corps fellowship. She was there with us to handhold things, and even if there was needed anything in during the fellowship or the internship, we were the person that we can reach out to Paridhi and get the problem solved. And so this is how we get to know
No.
Paridhi. And
Awesome. So, Pari has been the Pari in your life for some
yeah.
time. So,
Yeah.
Paridhi, do you want to help us understand a little bit of your journey and what your current role looks like in sustainability?
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So I grew up in Ujjain. It's a small town in Madhya Pradesh. Then I went to study at IIT BHU in Varanasi. And there I realized that I wanted to work on something related to social impact. It wasn't very clear back then. Right after college, I spent a couple of years working in the social impact space. I worked with Indian Political Action Committee for the initial part, and then I worked in Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. So that was a very grassroots level exposure to real life problems, etc. And I really felt that there are problems that I would like to solve with my time and effort. So I was then looking for something that also pairs up with my background in engineering and technology. So then I found this startup, Chakra Innovation, and I met with the founder, and it was a very good segue into a space that intersected with social impact. So they were building a technology that reduced the emissions from diesel generators. And I joined in as a policy associate. So it was a mix of both social impact for me and as well as technology. I worked with them for 3.5 years in various roles on around policy, strategy, and fundraising. And then over time, I also it got solidified for me that environmental action is my area of passion. I really believe in it, and this is where I want to work for the foreseeable future. Um, so then I joined Environmental Defense Fund in 2022 with the Climate Corps Fellowship program. That was an opportunity for me to also work at the intersection of multiple areas in sustainability, where corporates, talent, and environmental action is coming together. So I worked there for almost 2.5 years, and I'm heading the Climate Corps Fellowship program in India. Recently, Environmental Defense Fund partnered with Ashoka University in India to execute the fellowship. So now I'm part of AshokaX and heading the fellowship program.
And this was a very interesting journey. And so, what actually inspired you to work at the social sector? And were there impacts that were really associated with the work that you were creating?
So during my college time, whenever I would take up a course, let's say I took an elective on energy management, or my BTech project was around building something to reduce water pollution, so on and so forth. But every time I would, whenever I would go in depth, I realized that it's not making real life impact. I mean, some technology that I was working on was still in the lab, right? Or maybe whatever we are reading here is still just confined to this classroom. So I wanted to taste the real world and see that impact for myself. So that's how I started my journey there. And then in those initial years, there were moments where, I mean, it really affects you when you see problems up close, like in villages where when people didn't even know that they're burning packets of Lays or Kurkure to fire their, the chula that they had, or things like that, and many, many others. When I was in Punjab, there was stubble burning, and everyone knows how severe it gets around that time. So seeing that up close was, I think, a defining period for me, that I felt like I want to be part of the solution.
Oh, yeah, that is really sad. So, what kind of work did you do then? Were you educating the villagers on the harmful impacts, or were you suggesting them alternate materials?
So when I was working in Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin, the objective was to make India open defecation free. So it was one of the largest behavioral change campaigns in the world, in fact. And simultaneously, we were so I was a young professional. We were called Zilla Swachh Bharat Prerak. So I was in a very small district in Madhya Pradesh for the initial part of my fellowship. It was a 1 year long engagement, got extended a little bit. So I worked in Agar Malwa. It's a very small district. And my role was to work closely with the CEO, Zilla Panchayat, and implement the Swachh Bharat mission in the district. So simultaneously, we were running these social behavioral change campaigns, as well as monitoring the progress of toilet construction and usage, and reporting how many toilets were constructed, how many people were using them, etc. So it was a combination of both an intervention, a physical intervention by building toilets, and also nudging them to change their behaviors, and informing them what is good and what is really harmful in terms of the health impacts.
Wow. Do you have a before after story? Do you have like before it was like that, and afterwards it like people really changed and they changed their behaviors?
To a large extent, yes. So there's an exercise in social behavioral change campaign, SBCC it's called, where you, whenever you go to a village, that's the first thing you do. You make everyone sit together, and they collectively draw a map of their village, where they defecate, where the temple is, where the school is, etc. And then throughout that process, everyone identifies where the, where the health impact negative health impacts are coming from, because they were defecating so up close, they were falling more ill, etc., etc. So it's throughout that process, everyone goes through that journey of realization that we want to change this part of our life. We really want to practice safe sanitation habits. So then they agree to constructing toilets, and then they also then there was this entire segment of the Swachh Bharat mission where they got funding to create those to build those toilets, etc. So to a large extent, it was really making an impact. To some extent, it takes time for people to change their behaviors. When we would go on ground and monitor the progress, there would be times when the constructed toilets were unused. People were using it to maybe store some things.
Wow.
They were not using it even afterward, even after. So it took time for me to also see that these things don't take place very quickly. Even when there are interventions, when there is help, people change when they internally feel motivated, and sometimes there will be some back and forth, but eventually they come around. And uh, I'm happy that to a large extent we were able to, we as in all the everyone that was involved in Swachh Bharat mission was able to, get close to that goal of making India open defecation free.
Very interesting. Very big goal indeed. So, like,
And if I can just share just one thing I wanted to share, that
yes.
what inspired me during that time was uh, women, in fact, in villages, ferocious women, no matter whether they were educated or uneducated, they were leading the change from, front, and advocating for their rights, like advocating that we deserve to go to a toilet and not in an open field. And really, like, I felt inspired by them, and
Yeah, that
I
is
hope
so
I
good
was
to hear
able to
because
also inspire something. But yeah, that stays with me even after so many years. I
wow.
vividly remember those moments.
Yeah, actually, I also get inspired by women around me, the ones that are assisting me, the ones despite of problems they show up at work. And in fact, that was my question, how women are influencing your social impact work. So is it like once you have trained the women, then I think completely everything will be taken care of. They will take care of the village. Is it like that, or men
I mean,
also need to be educated?
essentially bring them together on the journey. So, be it Anganwadi workers, be
Mhm.
it Asha workers, or any other volunteers from the village, there would be that initial period of teaching them or telling them about the good and bad impacts, and then they would do things on their
Yeah.
own. You
Yeah,
really don't play any role
self-sustainable
afterward,
system.
because
Yes.
exactly I mean, you just need to support them. So we were playing the role of an enabler, and I wouldn't say that we changed their life. They themselves were uplifting the entire community together. And I particularly remember there was this one person who used to live outside the village. She would make those gobar ke, kande,
Kandi.
and she wasn't even educated, but when she would advocate for constructing the toilets, oh my God, everyone would be silent, and the fierceness in her would really feel would make everyone feel stunned. So and I've also met educated women who had done like masters, and they still went back to their village because they really believed that their community needed to change. So they were leading the change, they were going door to door and motivating people, and so on and so forth. So in my journey, where women have influenced me, I think it was both on ground. It was also in offices when, you work with either a government officer at the ministry, or in my role at the startup where the co-founder, or at home with my mom. I think it has been at several instances that women have inspired, and
Yeah.
God, I don't know what would I do without them.
Agree. Agree. Do you also, can you also make a comparison of the women-led systems versus men-led systems? What is the difference? Can you make a comparison?
So as much as I have seen, I feel the culture aspect of any system, I think women are able to see it and identify, what is uh, going wrong, what is going right, what should we do, because they really understand people better. There is that empathy that drives them, and being empathetic also helps them connect with everyone's needs. So I think when I've seen organizations mostly led by men and organizations mostly led by women or collectively led by both, I see this difference that women bring in that empathetic culture where everyone is at least seen and heard, and then we collectively solve some of the problems.
Yeah, and that was also our inspiration to create Sustainability Sisters. We also aim to create a community where, when we talk about sustainable living or sustainable industrial practices, we have one expert each. Like, we know like which lady to talk to, and she actually drives the entire conversation. So amazing. So, but talking about climate change, it is actually impacting the village level the most, even though they have learned to live and survive in their communities and do the best within their community. Are they prepared for what is coming?
I wouldn't even make that segregation of villagers or people in urban areas, if in the sense that they are prepared. I don't think as a society we are prepared.
Yeah,
Our
we,
infrastructures are not prepared even.
yeah.
Yesterday only I was reading something, and there was this quote that stayed with me. It said, even though your house may not be in the path of a storm, but it still is in the path of the infrastructure that it's standing on. So the grid that you rely upon, the rail networks, the water systems, everything is interconnected, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody as a society and our infrastructure is really prepared to tackle the extreme climate events that are lying ahead of us.
Yeah. And so, what kind of gaps do you see? Where can we, as a youth, Indian youth, we can contribute more and maybe drive our country towards climate change, adaptation, mitigation?
I think first step is to fundamentally understand the problem. When you really go into details of where this problem started and how it is intersecting with everything about our way of life today, you already start seeing these gaps. So, for example, this unfettered consumption is one of the biggest drivers of fast
Mm.
space, not just climate change, but also degradation of biosphere.
Yeah.
So I think this, when you speak of youth, that's where I see that youth can influence a lot of industrial movements with
Mm.
their choices, with their voice, and not contribute to the humongous amount of consumption that as a society we've done in the past few years. If you look at the statistics, we've consumed more in the past few years than in the entire
Yeah.
history
Yes.
of
Yes.
humankind.
Because of internet. Yes.
Everything, yeah, internet, social media,
Yeah.
uh, not being mindful, everything put together.
Yeah.
I think when I see why the movement is slow, uh, I mean, if you look at how the industries move, there has to be some regulatory pressure, right? They move with regulatory pressure. There has to be pressure from investors, banks, systems with money. And
Right.
then there has to be consumer pressure. So I think the third aspect is where youth can play a very big role, building that consumer pressure as well as showing them consumer preference that we don't want more,
Yeah.
you know, don't want to buy every day. We want to buy mindfully and give us sustainable alternatives. That's
Agree, agree. So there have been this economic definition of profits which just goes like compound interest and it never slows down. So now this new theory of degrowth is getting popular. So
yeah.
there's a quote, growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of a cancer cell. So we need to stop. We cannot just keep growing,
Right.
growing, growing. And the maximum
Yeah.
impact, like they said, the 80% of greenhouse gas emissions are coming from just 20% of the companies. So I
Hmm.
agree, regulatory, corporate together, and consumers, because consumers are the ones who are driving the corporates to create so much more. So then I think that is the path ahead. So tell us about your
Yeah.
work at Climate Corps.
Yes. So this fellowship was started by Environmental Defense Fund in 2008 with the objective of nurturing the next generation of climate leaders. Back then, it was the next generation, and today I feel it's the present generation. So, to me, we are building an army of climate advocates, and we want to equip them so that they can lead the change in their areas. They can be the change makers, the lighthouses wherever they are.
Yeah.
So through this fellowship, we recruit high quality talent, we train them, and we custom match them with organizations to work on climate change, sustainability, net zero related projects. So my role essentially is, I head the program in India. So looking after the program growth, what are the areas where our fellows should be working? For example, we see that there is a lot of movement happening in electric vehicles or renewable energy space, but there is less movement happening in freight sector or manufacturing or agriculture, right? So those identifying those gaps and areas where uh, placing such high quality, smart, trained talent can make a difference. So giving that shape to the program, identifying the high quality talent, where they are from, and even all, helping the young generation, people who are still studying or people who are trying to pivot in their careers,
Right.
helping them find these intersections where they can contribute, right? A lot of times people think that they have to leave their jobs to work on climate action because they can't do it in their jobs. But through this program, through our outreach, we also want to establish that every job is a climate job, and everyone can still take action, even if they're not working with the title of a sustainability manager or within a sustainability team, right? So there has to be just this orientation, how climate change is impacting their sector where they are working and what lies ahead, what are the solutions and what they can work on. I think with that, everyone can be equipped to find solutions. Because,
Yes, very interesting.
we can't really solve it for everyone else. Everyone has to come in together and solve it. In a nutshell, I would say I am ushering more people to work on climate action.
Yeah, that is a very inspiring work, Paridhi, honestly. And we also have an example of what
Yeah.
Paridhi has done. We have Prerna with us, and she
Yeah.
has been a Climate Corps fellow, and she got to learn for 2.5 months, right, Prerna? So, what all things did you learn during this internship?
Yeah. So during this internship, I got placed with the AB InBev industry, and it's a multi-brewery company. And I got to learn more about how the sustainability reporting happens, and how we and more on the content writing, like what is the things that are happening in the agriculture side, because the barley that get produced in the brewery company, what are the challenges that are faced by the industry in the because of climate change, and how can we collaborate with the startups that are there to make agriculture more sustainable, right?
Right.
Agriculture is a very water intensive process, so we can collaborate with very water stewardship startups that are there. So I remember we collaborated with a few startups that through which we can make the agriculture more sustainable. And through because of that I learned that there are so many collaborations that are possible in within the startup space or within the environment space, that if we make such collaboration we are able to drive a change, actual change that is there. We just need to look out for the opportunities that are there. So I got to learn there are different innovations that are happening. For example, so there was a startup which is working on capturing air and converting them into storage, particular storage
Carbon
facility,
capture and
carbon
storage.
capture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Awesome,
got to learn
Prerna.
about.
So, you learned a lot.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
that
yeah.
led to your placement at Sustainalytics, that
It
internship.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can say
Awesome.
that.
Awesome. So, Paridhi, what is the process of this application if someone wants to apply through this podcast?
Right. Interestingly, today is the deadline for our first phase of application. We'll open again in November, and it will be open till December. So we have first step is to head over to our website, Climate Corps Fellowship, AshokaX. You can Google it, and it will direct you to a portal where you will fill up application form. It will ask you for resume and cover letter. There will be a short video prompt as well. Then we go through a round of screening for these applications and invite candidates for interview. Then we have a case study style interview round. And after that, we make the shortlist. Then we custom match them with the organizations in our cohort who are partnering with us for the year of fellowship. And in this custom matching, we factor in both the profiles and skills of the fellow, their motivations, and the requirements from the host organization. And then before finalizing it, the fellows and the host get together on a call, talk to each other,
Hmm.
and then we confirm the match. And then we organize a round of training for these fellows on various topics to build a career in sustainability space. So it starts with a pre-learning leveling up guidance book where they get to see get to learn about the intersections of climate change with various sectors. And then we organize live training sessions where the experts come and talk about topics like maybe internal carbon pricing or greenhouse gas accounting or scope 3 emissions reduction. And then we also do more hands-on case study solutions where the fellows all solve a case study before coming into the session and we discuss the solution. So it's like a very holistic training program where they get to learn on their own, learn from experts, solve problems and case studies, and then also do doubt solving with the experts and their peers. And then finally, they go on to work on this fellowship with their host organization for a period of 8 to 12 weeks. So roughly 3 months, they work with the organization to finally, and then after that, they join the network. Our network now is literally global because this fellowship has been running in US for 17 years, 11 years in China, and this is the
Wow.
fourth year in India. Our network is more than 3,000 people across the world working on sustainability and related areas.
Nice. That's
Very
nice to
nice.
hear.
So, congratulations, Paridhi. I think the organization is growing. How does next 10 year look like? What do you think? How do they look like? Are we really behind Europe, like in terms of taking more sustainable actions, in terms of governance, regulatory mandates, or it looks fine. It's okay at this speed.
So honestly, if you make a comparison with a country like or a region like Europe or US for that matter, you have to realize that India is a developing country, right? We have to still grow and then adopt all these high
Yeah.
priced initiatives that are out there because still the cost has to come down for many of these things. Now for renewable it is down, but there is a green premium for many other things. So you
Right.
can't directly leapfrog to a stage where Europe or US can operate. Um, if you consider that point, India is doing far better in terms of uh, the leadership on climate initiatives. You would hardly find denial on climate change in India, right?
Agree.
There is very positivity, or rather, I would say there is a positive momentum towards net zero. Uh, can we do more? Absolutely, because as a society, we need to be doing a lot more and we need more industrial and social and political movements. The likes of, the kind of industry movement that happened during COVID, that is what we need.
Agree.
That's not happening right now, but that's what we need to go to the stage where we get to net zero.
Honestly, like with the systems that are in place, like sustainable financing, and the way there are so many frameworks where India can leverage a lot of these opportunities, but like there are gaps. There are gaps from the like pilot stage to the full-fledged execution stage itself. So a lot of youth also needs to, I think, come and fill those
Yes,
gaps. Next 5-10 years are really crucial for India, right?
the
Like
world, I would
it's
say. I
heating
mean,
up.
we have like 5 years of carbon budget left, so uh, I wouldn't even segregate the country boundaries. I would say next 5 years are crucial for the humanity to make a lasting change against climate change.
Agree. So that is a very good message to end this podcast with. Next 5 years are really crucial, and reduce your consumption however much you can. Choose a simple living. Simple is sustainable. Prerna, do you want to add anything? What is your takeaway from today's podcast?
Yeah, so considering the India's target that 2070 by 2070 we have to go net zero. So currently I'm studying for this course called GARP and GARP SCR. So I got to learn many things that is how other countries are setting their net zero target, and it's still finding it emissions because our emission needs to peak for development before even before I would say 2045. So our emissions need to peak there and then go down by 2050 or something like that. So to reach India net zero by 2030 is still an ambitious target for India to go towards net zero. And I find that Paridhi has mentioned that youth is a major driver of the country, and youth creates a bottom-up approach that can lead to actual change inside the society. And I find very honored by having Paridhi here to actually say more stuff
Mm.
about EDF Climate Corps Fellowship, and I got my memories back that it's been 2 years before I actually worked in the space, and I found it very helpful. And the sessions were very helpful in creating like greenhouse gas accounting and internal carbon pricing sessions. So these sessions were very helpful in creating actually getting into the field and getting the work done. So youth as well as the uh, other people that are going to apply for it getting to learn more about how this field is growing, and we need more people like that. So that's what I was
Awesome. So everyone who is listening to Prerna, please apply maybe in November for Climate Corps if you want to apply for that fellowship. It was great talking to Paridhi. Do you have any ending words for us? Do you want to say anything to Sustainability Sisters?
No, I think it's heartening to see that you are building this community and you want to reach more and more people and share this message. So many congratulations to you for building it and
Thank
all the
you.
very best for
Thank you.
continuing to grow it.
Yes.
And I hope, I mean, we get together. This leads to more action and more participation in the fight against climate change.
Yes. More
yes,
power to you,
yes.
Paridhi. More power to everything that you're doing to educate people and bring them some industrial experience. And guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Most importantly, we have many good speakers coming up, like Paridhi. Paridhi, can you also please request everyone to like, share, and subscribe to our channel?
Absolutely, right now. Like, share, and subscribe to both
Awesome.
Sustainability Sisters and Climate Corps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do also like, share, and subscribe to Climate Core. Prerna, do you want to add anything?
No, no, no. It was very nice to hear and getting my memories together, back together again. So, everybody, please like and subscribe so we can reach to more and more people and get this sustainability goals done before we get to reach
Before
net
we run
zero
out
in the
of time.
yeah
Yes.
before we run out of time.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you,
Thank you
Paridhi.
for
It was
having
great
me.
discussion. Thank you, Prerna.
Thank you so much.